God's plan. God's plan. I hold back sometimes.
Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Math Talk with Mr. Faison. And I'm Mr. Faison. Right now, y'all know before we get started, I don't get started unless I got my gloves on. All right. So while I'm doing that, get y'all pencil and paper ready, because today we're gonna be talking about fractions. Now I know, most people hate fractions, and I hear that every time when I bring it up in class, right? But hopefully we can make it easier, like I do for my students. All right, so now when we get to talking about fractions, the first thing I want y'all to understand, the first thing I want y'all to learn is this, right? Now, up top we have numerator, and below we have the word denominator. All right, now if I was to look in comparison to this, I want y'all to understand the number on top will always be your numerator. The number on the bottom will always be your denominator, right? So like when you see here, up top is always your numerator, at the bottom is always your denominator. Once again, at the top is always your numerator, at the bottom is always your denominator. So I gave y'all 4 examples, and I want to show y'all what kind of fractions these all are, right? Because you have different kinds of fractions, right? My first one, this will be considered a proper fraction. This will be considered a proper fraction because my numerator is lower than my denominator, right? The number on top is lower than the number at the bottom. So this will make this a proper fraction, okay? Now I come here, problem number 2, all right? This will be called the improper fraction because my numerator is higher than my denominator, okay? So the number at top is higher than the number at the bottom. So this will be an improper fraction. So we have a proper fraction and an improper fraction, right? So we gotta remember, for it to be a proper fraction, the numerator has to be lower than the denominator. When you look at an improper fraction, the numerator is higher than the denominator, okay? Now we go to number 3, okay? This is called a mixed number. This is called a mixed number because, of course, we have our numerator and our denominator, but we also have a whole number attached to it, okay? So that would be called a mixed number. This right here, we have a whole number and we have a numerator and denominator, but the numerator is higher than the denominator. So one thing I want y'all to understand is, one thing you cannot have when you're talking about a fraction, this you'll never see. If you see that, they playing with you. You'll never see a problem that has a whole number attached to an improper fraction. It doesn't exist. Non-existent. Real quick, y'all, before I end class, there's a couple things I had to show y'all, and I want to make sure y'all got this in our first lesson of fractions, right? The thing is, when we first see whole numbers, how do I turn a whole number into a fraction? Anytime you see a whole number you need to turn into a fraction, all you do is this. Put a 1 under it. That's all you do. You just put a 1 under it. So if I'm turning any whole number into a fraction, I just put a 1 under it. This 22 right here, 22 over 1. Now, the next thing I want to show y'all is this. If I have numbers where you see I have a 7 over a 7, what does this turn into? Sometimes you might see this and you might get a little confused and stuff like that, but we're going to make this extremely simple. Anytime you see a fraction, it has the same number as the numerator and the denominator, all it is 1. Anything we see, 150 over 150, 1. Hey, man, that's the end of our first lesson of fractions, man. This is another episode of Math Talk with Mr. Faison, and I'm Mr. Faison. See y'all next time.
God's plan. God's plan.